Through spoken word, the lyricism really comes from the individuality of each person's experience. And so that really inspired me to just write my own and get out into the world. And I pretty much just never stopped. So I wouldn't have ever anticipated whatsoever that it would have been a career. But I was lucky enough to continue to perform and then get cast on the last 3 seasons of HBO Def Poetry, which of course, you know, brought my work out to a larger national audience. I really found my artistic home, you know, when I was introduced to spoken word when I was in high school. I had a high school English teacher who actually snuck us into the bars in Chicago to go watch the original poetry slams go down. So that meant a lot to me because for me as an Asian American female growing up in the Midwest, there were very, very, very few depictions of any Asian American females, you know, at that time. In that environment, particularly the adults I grew up watching as a teenager, there was not one style. There was not one cadence. There was not one exterior look. Very specific to each person, you know, and where they were coming from. And so that helped, you know, seeing people working hard to be themselves. You know how some people as performers, they want like all their friends to be there and to like, you know, cheer them on? And I was kind of the opposite. Like it was really a place for me to find this kind of like private rumination, and the anonymity of being able to go to different open mics and just share it was something that was really important, especially in my early days of like developing myself as a spoken word poet. So normally this actually is my living space, but when it comes to production time, then it becomes my rehearsal space, my design space. This area here is often where I storyboard a lot of my ideas for my full-length pieces, whether that's a play or a screenplay or, you know, another written work that's a longer piece. For me, visually, I need to lay it out to be able to see where it's going. My writing studio right here. So this is it. This is where much of the magic happens. On a given day, I could be doing anything from revising a play to writing new poems to doing accounting, you know, to looking over, helping to photo edit if there's a, you know, photography that was just done of an event or, you know, for some other promotional thing. I could be helping out with graphic design, working with my booking team around booking new events. But yeah, it's a lot of different things. So everything from creative things to, as what people would say, administrative, but I really think that those things are important and an extension of what it is that I do as an artist. So the producing is a very creative and important part of it in terms of how my work gets connected to the rest of the world. Very important to me. Artist careers are really interesting in that there's not a lot of transparency about how they're created, how they're sustained, and historically what's involved to really make them be a job like any other job. I mean, I've found that in my lifetime that I feel it's really like either people think you're super ballin' if you're an artist, or they think that you like are scraping and starving. And I'm kind of like, I'm just kind of like a regular person like you know what I mean? It's like, I can spend money, I have to save money, you know, I like take time off, I have extra work hours, I actually have responsibilities, I'm a normal person just like you. Formosa's been in development probably like for the better part of like on and off 2 years. Of course, when I'm working on projects, I'm working on like a bunch of different projects. So in those last 2 years, I've also written a feature film, wrote 2 other plays, probably did somewhere between 60 to 70 spoken word performances in maybe 20 to 30 states or something. So there's, oh yes, and I also shot 2 short films in that time, one being the 360-degree interactive film. There's probably other things that I'm forgetting, but I like to keep, you know, active. This piece was inspired by the fact that I've always wanted to do a piece that was about Taiwan, which is where my family is from. And I was always fascinated with the fact that in the West for a long time, people called Taiwan Formosa, which means beautiful in Portuguese. So I was like, huh, there's something in here about beauty and about Western gaze and about this place where my family is from, but I couldn't really figure out what that thing was. And then a few years ago, I was performing at the North American Taiwanese Women's Association conference. And that's when I first learned some of the history of Barbie doll manufacturing in Taiwan and how half of all the world's Barbie dolls were actually manufactured in this town in the northern part of the island. Actually not that far from where my family is from. And so that's how Formosa came about. Entrepreneurs are the artists of the economy. So it's this idea that you're using your creativity to create something that wasn't previously there, or you're trying to take your, you know, a limited resource and transform it into something else, right? If you want to make money, you have to pay attention to money. You have to care about money. You have to care about people who are giving it. You have to care about how it's taken. You have to care about how it's allocated. You have to be organized, you know, and any level of professionalism that you would bring to any other job that somebody would hire you for, you should bring that to your own work, always. And it's hard because there's no one else to reinforce for you to do it, but you have to do it because it matters. And you have to really ask yourself, do you really believe more in what someone else would ask of you than what you would ask of yourself? I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I mean, I always told young artists, you gotta find your audience, you know? And that's not like trying to like pander and be like, hey, look at my stuff, you know? I mean, it's really understanding there's something that is you. And there's people who really need to hear it and to feel it and to experience it. And then your job becomes, how do you find those people? And that's true of everything. It's true in love and friendship and, you know, business relationships and collaboration. How do we find, you know, that other thing or person that we meet and it's what we both needed, you know? And I think that's specific to, you know, spoken word. A lot of my work is really about trying to understand what's been made like an invisible experience. So that's, for me, what it means to be Asian American. That's not what it means for everyone to be Asian American, but that is what it means for me. And so the metaphor of that experience means anyone whose experience is made invisible by culture, you know? Because, you know, that's what it means to be an artist, that's what it means to be an entrepreneur, to really focus on that one thing that does not exist yet and keep working towards it until it becomes real. And that's the heart of all of this work.